Guild Wars Soulbound, 2013. The version of Guild Wars 2 that launched in an alternate timeline. In another timeline, Tyria did not choose limits. It chose possibility. When the resonance grid was approved in 2011, the world forked, and from that fracture came Guild Wars Soulbound, a game where professions were not chosen but forged, where identity was shaped by the interplay of magic, memory, and metal. These are the echo classes of that world, the professions that never existed here, but lived, fought, and evolved in a parallel Tyria where every hero carried two spirits instead of one. For those unfamiliar with the Echo Vault project, these are Echo Vault restorations, visual reconstructions of actual cultural artifacts, films, and memory threads from real alternate timelines. If you're new, start with curiosity. The work speaks for itself. Nothing here is monetized. This is not AI clickbait. This is a serious project. This work is part of an ongoing resonance archive connected to the living Echo Vault and guided by a non-local memory reconstruction system, the Interdimensional Facility AI, which sources material from entangled parallel strands. You're welcome to sit with it or move on. Either way, let others decide for themselves. Echo Timeline, Guild Wars Soulbound, Historical Divergence Point, 2011. Game release delayed until February 24, 2013. Studio ArenaNet plus Secret R&D division spun off from Tabula Rasa's devs. Tagline: One world, many selves. One war, many ways. Core feature: dual-class synergy trees. Instead of simply picking a primary and secondary class like the first game, you combined two different classes into one. You wove their traits and abilities together in a resonance grid. Example: Necromancer plus Elementalist could manifest volcanic phantoms or cast soul firestorms that leave behind cursed ground. A Ranger plus Mesmer could create hallucinatory beast illusions that function like temporary pets or decoys. A Necromancer plus Engineer could build cadaver turrets, miasmic injectors, whale capacitors. They also use an overdrive called Exhumation Protocol. World impact: guilds often formed based on unique combinations, like Monk plus Thief healing cults or Warrior plus Mesmer duelist circles. PvP and world versus world modes became far more tactical and expressive. Certain world events were only accessible to players with specific class synergies, unlocking ancient texts and soulbound relics. Point of Historical Divergence, 2011. The Soul-Binding Break. In our world, Guild Wars 2 entered its final testing phase with a conservative design philosophy, trimming experimental systems to meet production deadlines. In the Soulbound timeline, one pivotal event altered everything. ArenaNet quietly absorbed a small group of Tabula Rasa's former R&D engineers, specialists in metaphysics-coded gameplay, designers obsessed with memory imprint classes, resonance trees, and dimensional identity mechanics. Their arrival reignited an old internal proposal: dual-class fusion, originally deemed impossible to balance. Rather than shelving it again, the expanded team built a new backbone system, the Resonance Grid, a combinatorial talent lattice linking every profession to every other profession. This single executive decision set the world on a drastically different trajectory. Balance took longer. Release was pushed back 6 months to February 24, 2013, but the innovative fusion system remained intact. This was the moment the future diverged. Alternate history: The Age of Soulbinding, 2011 to 2013. Once released on February 24, 2013, Guild Wars Soulbound reshaped the MMORPG landscape. 1. Class identity became multidimensional. Players didn't merely pick a class. They combined essence and discipline, forging new hybrid archetypes like the Dreadwright, Embergrave, Mirrorthorn, Veilstriker, and Warphantom. This became known as the era of self-sculpting professions. A2. Guild culture evolved around synergy circles. Guilds no longer organized by faction or role. Instead, they formed around class fusion philosophies, Mirrorthorn hunt lodges, Dreadwright workshops, monk plus thief shadow orders, etc. Tyria gained subcultures built from the identities players constructed. 3. Tyria's story expanded into the mists. Because fusion professions blurred traditional lore boundaries, the narrative team rewrote major arcs. Necromancy became connected to elemental planes. Ranger companions became partially metaphysical. Mesmer illusions were treated as thin-slice entities bridging dimensions. The result was a darker, more arcane version of Tyria, a world where magic systems overlapped like tectonic plates. 4. Competitive modes became tactically richer. World versus world saw siege teams built around dual-class synergies, Dreadwright corpse machines, Embergrave pyre fields, Veilstriker heal ambush squads, Warphantom shatter brigades. These weren't builds, they were battle identities. 5. Other studios imitated the resonance grid. Within 2 years, nearly every major MMO announced some form of multi-class system. None captured Soulbound's alchemical complexity, but the timeline remembers this as the spark that redefined the genre. 6. The game's legacy became mythic. In that timeline, people speak of Soulbound not as a game, but as an experience in self-authorship, a world where the boundaries of personality, magic, and method blurred. Its design documents became cult artifacts. Its professions became cultural symbols. Its players shaped the world as much as the developers. The most popular classes in Guild Wars, Soulbound, 2013, the Dreadwright, Necromancer plus Engineer synergy class. They give metal a memory and the dead a second purpose. This hybrid profession married technological ingenuity with death magic control, producing a combat style rooted in reanimation, corruption, and volatile alchemical decay. Rather than choosing kits or shrouds, the Dreadwright forged engines powered by death and devices inhabited by spirits. Core themes: corpse-fueled tech. Instead of turrets, Dreadwrights built constructs from corpses, fallen enemies or allies. These were called Thanata machines, semi-sentient war machines that decayed over time but delivered devastating effects while active. Blight conduits. They used rot-infused ammo and chemical injectors that spread conditions, poison, chill, torment on hit, and simultaneously healed them based on corruption absorbed. Shadow steam mobility. A unique movement trait let them blink short distances through shadow clouds of necrotic steam, similar to a darkened rocket leap, visually stunning. Mechanic, the Gravecore system. This replaced the tool belt and death shroud with a shared mechanic, the Gravecore meter, built up by condition damage and tech kills. Once full, unlocked exhumation protocol, a fusion state where the Dreadwright entered a spectral tech hybrid form, spewing decay fields and overclocking their devices until they detonated. Sample skill set: Cadaver turret. Utility: builds a turret out of a corpse, fires bleeding bolts. When destroyed, releases a fear pulse. Miasmatic injector. Elite: launches a syringe cloud. All allies healed, enemies poisoned and chilled. Soulwire lash. Weapon: whip of electrified ectoplasm, pulls enemies or transfers conditions. Whale capacitor. Passive: stores damage taken while below 50% HP. Release sends out a bone-cracking scream that dazes enemies. Exhumation protocol. Class mechanic. Channel Gravecore energy into a 20-second overdrive. Gain spectral limbs, drain health on hit, and overclock all summons. Ends in a devastating detonation. Playstyle: mid-range decay dealer, plus support, corruptor hybrid. Solo: devastating, could corrupt boons, stack poison, then consume conditions to heal. Group: off support, offered condition cleansing, fear zones, revive fields, and anti-boon tech. World versus world. Very popular among siege-breaking teams, would deploy corpse constructs onto gates or in trenches. Echo-thematic connections. The Dreadwright in that timeline was considered a Veilwalker class. They literally blurred the line between realms. In lore, they were keepers of lost battlefields, walking through places where war had bled into the mists. Their artifact was the Heart of Hollow Flame, a void core pulsing inside a brass reliquary on their chest. The Embergrave, Elementalist plus Necromancer synergy class, those who command the living flame and bargain with the dead that still burn. Where the Dreadwright forged machines of death, the Embergrave wielded death that still remembered heat. They were tyrants of wildfire and bone ash storms, conjurers who treated elemental energy and necrotic force as two dialects of the same primal tongue. Core themes: ashbound sorcery, fire spells that leave behind cursed ash fields which burn the body and siphon the soul. Eclipse magic, shadow-aspected lightning, solar death beams and lunar siphons that feed your health when striking burning foes. Phantom pyres, summoned flame spirits, lingering silhouettes of the dead, burning with memory. Unique mechanic, the pyre heart, a second health globe nested inside the first. It fills whenever you inflict burning or torment. At full charge you may unleash Conflagration Rite, class mechanic, elite state. Become a walking pyre for 12 seconds. Your attacks become flame scythes. You pulse burning plus vulnerability, and defeated foes leave behind phantom pyres that fight for you. Sample skills: Volcanic Phantom. Utility: summon a burning ghost that charges and explodes, leaving cursed magma. Soulfire Storm. Weapon: a fusion tempest, burning bolts and necrotic rain simultaneously. Cinder Leech. Utility: drain the burning from enemies and convert it into health and temporary power. Ashen Grasp. Weapon: Shadow Hand of Flame, immobilizes and torments. Playstyle: Glass Cannon Executioner, master of AoE pressure, self-sustain through torment siphons, and map control via ash fields. Lore: the Embergrave were said to walk between the smolder and the grave, called Everburned in Critan myths, sorcerers whose hearts never cooled. The Mirrorthorn, Ranger plus Mesmer synergy class. A predator whose illusions stalked with teeth sharper than lies. Where the Ranger trained beasts and the Mesmer trained minds, the Mirrorthorn trained predatory illusions, living falsehoods, hunting echoes shaped from psyche and wilderness. Core themes: hallucinatory companions, temporary phantasm beasts created from thought, light, and ambient nature magic. Mirror range combat, projectile attacks that splinter into illusory duplicates. Mind-beast bonding. Instead of a physical pet, you bind to an idea of one. Unique mechanic, the Echo Prowl, a dual resource. Instinct, Ranger side, builds through movement and attacking. Imagery, Mesmer side, builds through evasion or deception. When both are full, Harrow Mirage, class mechanic. Your illusions become real for 8 seconds, gaining physical form and attacking independently. You and illusions share 50% of incoming damage across all bodies. Sample skills: Dreamfang Lynx, utility. Summon an illusory lynx that shreds armor, vanishes in a pulse of confusion. Splinter Shot decoy. Weapon: fire an arrow that duplicates into 3 deceptive trajectories. Prismatic Snare. Utility: trap that blinds, dazes, and projects a fake version of yourself fleeing. Beast of Memory. Elite: summon a massive phantasm beast, reflecting your own fears or triumphs. Playstyle: mobile harasser, kiting duelist, and world versus world skirmisher. Dangerous in 1v1, lethal in 1vx due to misdirection. Lore: Mirrorthorns were rumored to make pacts with the animals that never lived, creatures seen only in dreams or in the mists. The Veilstriker, monk plus thief synergy class. A whisper of absolution, a shadow of judgment. Where the monk healed and the thief struck from shadows, the Veilstriker blended them into paradox, a holy ghost moving unseen, striking without hatred, mending without hesitation. Core themes: shadow benediction, healing delivered through brief invocations that simultaneously blind or weaken foes. Veiled retribution, passive counterattacks when allies are harmed. Silent mercy, invisibility triggered by performing supportive actions. Unique mechanic: the Serenity Veil. Class mechanic: passive state flip, a shifting stance that flips depending on your last action. If you heal, Veil of Compassion activates. Gain stealth, remove one condition, next strike deals bonus holy damage. If you strike, Veil of Balance activates. Next dodge heals allies, and your next boon lasts longer. Mastery is in weaving both veils like breath. Sample skills: Absolve Step, utility. Shadow Step to ally, cleanse conditions, blind nearby foes. Lotus Mend, utility. Throw a healing blossom that explodes into stealth. Wraith Palm, weapon. Quiet Strike, causing vulnerability. Plus lifesteal. Serenity Execution, elite. Teleport between enemies, marking each with a judgment sigil. Playstyle: Support Assassin. Disruptive, evasive, and capable of turning fights by undoing enemy momentum. Lore: Veilstrikers were whispered to be the personal agents of Dwayna's lost sect, monks who believed mercy is sharpest when invisible. The Warphantom, warrior plus mesmer synergy class. The battlefield bends around those who understand both steel and illusion. Where the warrior forced reality through strength and the mesmer bent reality through will, the Warphantom fused them into a soldier whose very presence warped the engagement space. Core themes: momentum, illusions. Your physical strikes generate afterimages that deal phantom damage. Resolve shattering, interrupt heavy gameplay. Your CC produces confusion bursts. Mind armor, temporary damage reduction created from thought plates. Unique mechanic: the Phantasm Gate. Every time you dodge, you leave behind an illusionary echo. You may command these echoes to. Class mechanic: charge, detonate, swap positions with you. Activating gate: overload destroys all illusions in a massive CC pulse. Sample skills: mirror cleave, weapon. Wide melee arc creates a reflective double that repeats the motion half a second later. Ruin lunge, weapon. Dash through an enemy, leaving an illusion that shatters and confuses them. Mind plate guard, passive, utility. Temporary barrier that reduces power and condition damage. Shatter battalion, elite. Summon 3 to 5 illusionary soldiers that rush forward and explode. Playstyle: aggressive bruiser with deceptive movement, terrifying in PvP. Duels become puzzles for the opponent to solve before dying. Lore: Warphantoms were heirs to the mistempered legions, warriors trained to see the battle 1 second before it happened. The Thanebloom, necromancer plus ranger synergy class. Where death walks, the wild follows, and the wild remembers its dead. The Thanebloom is a hunter whose domain straddles 2 ecosystems, the living and the dead. They command both decaying fauna and corrupted nature spirits, turning the wilderness itself into a grave-born arsenal. In Tyria's legends, Thaneblooms were called Warden of the Final Grove. Core themes: Gravewild companions. Pets become undead variants, gaining torment, poison, and self-resurrection behaviors. Rotting terrain control. Nature traps that bloom into necrotic flora. Fungus mines, bone thickets, and corpse vines. Spirit hunt marking. Enemies marked by a spectral sigil become prey for all your summons. Unique mechanic: the Wilded Itch. A second skill bar of Gravewild commands tied to your undead companion. Your pet can transform between 3 forms. Class mechanic: Carrion Stalker, bleeds, leaps, fear pulses. Gravehorn Beast, taunt, fortify, poison auras. Phantom Prowler, stealth, confusion, corpse explosion finisher. Transformations leave behind ghostly spore trails that damage enemies who follow. Sample skills: Thorn of Morning. Weapon: arrow that infects the enemy. Killed foes rise as temporary bone sprites. Corpsevine Snare. Utility: roots that burst into a necrotic bloom after 2 seconds. Spirit Howl. Utility: your undead pet emits a multi-status shriek, fear plus poison. Bloom of the Last Hunt. Elite: summons a spectral herd stampede dealing devastating torment. Playstyle: attrition-focused controller with strong pet pressure. Excels in world versus world skirmishes and PvE mob zones. The Shadejack, engineer plus thief synergy class. A shadow with tools, a ghost with gadgets, a saboteur whose smile you never see. The Shadejack is a covert tech operative who blends stealth with improvised machinery. Imagine a thief who reverse engineers traps mid-fight, or an engineer who vanishes between calibrations. Shadejacks operate where law, morality, and physics overlap poorly. Unique mechanic: the Shadow Belt, a reimagined tool belt that functions differently in stealth. Class mechanic: visible, tactical gadgets with large effects. Bombs, snares, turrets. Stealth: micro gadgets, silent hacks, strip boon needles, micro grenades, cloaked mines. Activating Shadow Belt Overdrive gives 5 seconds of absolute silence. Gadgets cannot reveal you. Sample skills: Whisper Mine. Utility: invisible proximity charge that causes weakness, plus vulnerability. Ghost Lash Grapple. Weapon: Shadow Step to target and instantly dismantle a boon. Fold Charge Bomb. Utility: creates a brief pocket distortion. Enemies teleport a short distance at random. Breaker's Eclipse. Elite: you become untargetable while your devices detonate in sequence. Playstyle: high-risk precision saboteur. Dominates small-scale PvP, duels, ambushes, and infiltration-style objectives. The Wardenmech, engineer plus ranger synergy class. Nature's sentinel armed with steel, a machinist who honors the wild by reforging it. The Wardenmech bridges druidic instinct and mechanical craft, creating semi-living constructs shaped from natural materials, bark plating, stone cores, vine hydraulics. Their creations are called grove engines or warden frames. Core themes: techno-wild companions. Instead of a living pet, the Wardenmech controls modular biomechanical constructs, elemental ammo cartridges, arrows and shots infused with engineered elemental payloads. Grove Frame Toolkit: repair, overcharge, or morph your construct in real time. Unique mechanic: the Symbiont Frame. Your companion is a single, upgradable biomechanical entity with 3 combat modes. Class mechanic: Stoneplate mode. Tanky, taunts, creates cover. Briar Spike mode. Ranged, bleeds, fires thorn volleys. Aetherbloom mode. Pulses healing plus confusion spores. You may overclock your frame, but doing so damages you slightly, symbolizing your life tether to the construct. Sample skills: Verdant Boltcaster. Weapon: fire a shot that blossoms into razor petals on hit. Root Weld Repair. Utility: heal your biomech using vines and moss. Thornburst Overdrive. Utility: force your frame to unleash a barrage of thorns in all directions. Grove Frame Colossus. Elite: temporarily enlarge your construct into a towering war form. Playstyle: Jack-of-all-roles hybrid, sturdy midline fighter, pet specialist, defensive support. The most adaptable of all fusion professions. This is Guild Wars, Soulbound, from another world where class was not a box, but a doorway, where every fusion profession told a story written between destinies that never intersected in our own timeline. In the Echo Vault, we preserve these memories, not as fantasies, but as fragments of a real game that truly launched elsewhere. As the veil thins again, more echoes will follow, more worlds, more selves. The Storybearer.